Whenever Hawaii is in a conversation ever, you usually don't think of the music. When most people talk about the music coming out here, it's either the traditional stuff, reggae, or some form of R&B. Can you name an artist that came out of Hawaii with any mainstream success off the top of your head? Without research, I sure couldn't. We got Bruno Mars, which, come on, who hasn't heard of him? We got Israel. I bet at least a few people heard Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And last but not least, we can't forget
my neck, my back, lick my pussy and my crack.
Yeah, I'm just as surprised as you are. We also have a Vaporwave act coming out of here, but we don't really like to talk about that. But what most people don't even consider when talking about the music from Hawaii is the hip-hop scene. There is, surprisingly, a thriving but niche hip-hop scene here. As someone in this community, yes, I am from Hawaii, born and raised, I can say we're not mainstream in the slightest. Is it because we don't have a distinct sound? Is it because Hawaii itself is so far detached from the rest of America musically and to a greater extent culturally? Are the rappers and producers here just operating in a market that doesn't want them? Well, whatever the case may be, we haven't traveled very far from here. I have long held the belief that most of the hip-hop from here is either some form of reggae rap fusion, protest music, or in some way trying to imitate whatever's popular at the moment. While I feel that's not too far off the mark, after researching for this video, I found out there's a diverse range of sounds that come out of the hip-hop scene here. So today we are looking at 5 hip-hop artists from Hawaii. I'll give some background to them, then an overview, and an honest opinion on their discography. Maybe you'll find a new artist here. In preparation for this video, I tried to follow every rapper that could even be from Hawaii, so I had to sift through a decent amount of music. I might make a part 2 of this video in the near future. Also, not a lot of information exists for these artists, so bear with me if I get anything wrong or miss anything. Let's start with arguably the most popular local group, or at least the one with the most YouTube views, Sudden Rush. Sudden Rush, according to Wikipedia, makes music classified as Namele Poleoleo. I'm sorry if I butchered that. I am not a native Hawaiian speaker, which translates to speaking angrily. Said music incorporates rapping in English and Hawaiian. One thing to note about this group is that a lot of their music is not on streaming platforms and only really exists on physical copies or in fragments. So even listening to their music is pretty difficult. As a result, I can't give a complete picture of their work, but here's what I can gather. Originating from the Big Island, Sudden Rush consists of Kid Dynamite, Red Eye, and King Don 1 on vocals, and producer Radical Rob on the boards. One other member who was with them in the early 90s is Tane Lealoha, who died in 2006. They were active from the early 90s to 2006, and they sporadically dropped music since then. Their latest release is the Overthrow EP in 2018. Their music consists of either straight up reggae, which they're most known for, socially conscious rap, or a combination of the two. Hawaiian pride and politics are a central theme in their music and are frequent advocates of the sovereignty movement. Their debut project, Nation on the Rise, released in 1995. It's notably different from the rest of their catalog because it's really absent of any reggae influence, or much singing for that matter. Sound-wise, it has that West Coast mid-90s party vibe mixed with some aggressiveness. If I had to compare it to something, they sound a lot like the Alcoholics. After that point, their music shifts to the regular reggae rap fusion they're known for, with albums like Kue in 1997, Ea in 2002, and the Overthrow EP in 2018. If you enjoy slow reggae ballads, faster paced reggae tracks with a political edge, or aggressive political rap, this is the group for you. From this point onward, you can easily find these artists' music on streaming platforms and wherever you want to find music. When you search for Hawaiian rappers on Wikipedia, the first person that pops up is Thomas Iannucci, originally going under the name Italian. Originating from Kauai, he is known for winning a bunch of awards like
Nahoku Hano Hano Awards for Best Hip Hop Album in 2018 and 2020,
and the
Best Hip Hop Song finalist in the 2016 National John Lennon Songwriting Contest,
and also being a part of the
Rapzilla Freshman Class of 2020.
Yes, my man is a Christian rapper, and before some of you collectively groan and click off the video, it's more like he's a rapper that's Christian than a Christian rapper. In other words, Christianity is only really mentioned in passing in his music, with one exception, but we'll get there when we do. His first project was the Sleepless Nights EP in 2014. One thing to note about Iannucci's early work is that, well, it sounds like a weird combination of Eminem and NF, or in other words, Dream's taste in hip-hop. But to be fair, he doesn't cross into that territory. Like both aforementioned artists, his early work has that weirdly aggressive tone that NF and Eminem are known for. He even shares a similar type of production that NF and a phase in Eminem's career are associated with. This sound also extends to the second project, Makama. To some of these albums, these songs tend to focus on lyrical flexing or personal topics. I feel if I listened to these albums on release, I would have been more accepting of it, but hearing it now, it just sounds a little dated in my opinion. At this point, if I stopped listening, I would have written this guy off as haha funny white man rap fast, but by the time of his third album, Kuliana, which was released in 2019, his sound shifted to something I prefer more. Not to say that his old style is particularly bad, but it's just not my thing. He still has that aggressive style of rap, but finally learned how to slow down and rap over some mellower boom bap production, which I'm a big fan of. Subject-wise, this album is a lot more personal and reflective, and this time he talks a lot more about Hawaiian stuff, which I feel the first two projects really kinda lacked. His next project, Mauiikila, did I butcher that again? I'm sorry. Would also continue the sound, but notably the lyrical content is a lot more political. These two projects I feel are his best. Doubting Thomas is his latest project and goes back to his older style of sounding like NF&M. But instead of lyrical flexing, we get bits of political commentary, and this time around he leans a lot more into being a Christian rapper, with a lot more religious references being thrown about. This album came out after he featured on the 2020 Rapzilla cover, so it would make sense why he would cater to new listeners. In summary, while a lot of his music is not exactly in my taste, he's definitely worth a listen. Listen to Kuliana and Mauiikila if you want some show stuff. Listen to the rest if you like Eminem or NF. Our next artist here is the producer Ohtoro Beats. Originating from Oahu according to his Discogs page, which sounds like he wrote it himself, produced for Aloe Black, some members of Army of the Pharaohs, and most notably Shingo2. He has also collaborated with local artists like Hejai, who I might cover in the future. From his production history, it's safe to assume that this guy has a boom bap kind of sound. Otaro has a lot of content out, so I'll cover the ones that I feel are worth talking about. His earliest project that I can find is 2014's One the Right Time. The album is a mix of a bunch of sounds ranging from the grand sounding Number One Tuna or Echo in the Chamber, slower sounds like We're Lost and No Map, and a small bit of an electronic influence throughout the project in general, notably appearing on tracks like Dakara. There are also a couple of features dotted throughout like Montclair, who provides some hooks and some vocal riffing, and a small handful of rappers, but most notably the track Ocean features the rapper Blue, who is the other half of Exile and Blue, and one-time collaborator of Madlib. The next project we got is 2017's Kumamoto LP. As a side tangent, the first time I heard of Otaro was because of this LP. I crate dig a lot, and being a producer and a vinyl fan in general, I always see this album when I pass by the local artist section. Anyway, this album ditches most of the last album's electronic influence and goes strictly for boom bap, with some elements of lo-fi thrown in. A lot of the individual tracks are a lot shorter, with none of them really breaking past 3 minutes, but this is probably due to the fact that most of these songs here are mostly instrumental. There are also just as many tracks with features. While some of them may only provide an instrumental feature or a small vocal appearance, the rappers here give solid verses, or at least they sound like they do. Why do I say this? Some of the features here are actual Japanese rappers speaking their native language. The only English-speaking features are the supergroupers, Meso, and the aforementioned Shingo2, which I feel give pretty solid performances. The last project I'll cover is his most recent, which is the 2021 EP Downhill, which is a collaboration between him and the singer Nick Kurosawa. Despite being only 3 tracks long, I think it's a worthwhile listen if you want something chill. Kurosawa meshes well with Otaro's production, especially on the track Downhill. Overall, if you want some boom bap instrumentals with a decent range of sounds, with features, then Otaro is for you. Coming back to rappers, our next artist is one from my island. That artist being Maui Killuh. Originating from Maui, obviously, he is part of the Aguas Here collective. The collective itself has a pretty solid roster like Tone and Yigyaulai, which I might cover in I'm definitely making a second video. But at the moment, Mr. Killa has no major projects out, but we do have a bunch of singles, so I'll go over that. At the time of writing this, a project is in the works, so keep an eye out for that. Unlike the artists featured previously, this guy is a lot more modern. He got pieces of that old SoundCloud era aesthetic with tracks like Splash and Hot Sauce, some melodic tracks like Summer Vibe and Forgive, and some slower personal tracks like the aforementioned Forgive and the track Everything. Also, if you're wondering, his production choice is on point. Even though I put Mauiikila on mostly because he's from my island and because he's newer, I genuinely think his music is pretty solid. So if you want anyone that's more, I guess, contemporary, this is the guy for you. The last act I'm covering here is the collective AV Klub. Originating from Oahu, AV Klub consists of Maddie Out West, Cody and Son, Sleepy Howl, Lucy Lago, On God, and Young Cuts, and DJ Inspect. All of these artists exist as solo artists, but I will mainly be covering the collective as a whole. They mainly categorize themselves as a multimedia group, but all I can really find is their music. As of now, all they have out as a collective is the cover art trilogy, in which they rap over instrumentals produced by other famous artists. Kinda in the same vein as old Dat Piff mixtapes. Don't know what I'm talking about? It's kind of similar to that dude Tyler the Creator project with DJ Drama yelling over it. I apologize if I sound like I'm spinning through these albums, since I can't really speak on anything other than the individual performances. Cover Art Volume 1 was released in 2018 and consists of 8 tracks with production stemming from Drake, Mac Miller, Kanye West, and Famous Dex. God, remember when Famous Dex was relevant? At this point, the only artists are Cody, Chef Boy, or On God as he's known now, and DJ Inspect. Cody and On God do indeed rap their asses off on tracks like Chun-Li with a faster flow or on Mac Salad with a slower kind of flow. Someone also does their best Drake impression on Nice For What. Moving on to the second volume of cover art, there are only 4 tracks present. Well, 3 since the 4th track seems missing. The second volume adds Lucy Lago to the roster and features instrumentals from Logic, the 3rd Dreamville album, and A$AP Rocky, and also the Lost Ariana Grande track. Both Cody and Lago have solid performances, with Lago adding that extra variety that the first project lacked. The 3rd volume was released recently in 2021 and adds the rest of the current roster, including Young Cuts, Sleepy Howl, and Maddie Out West. Consisting of 8 tracks, there is production featuring from, well, I'm not actually sure. Some of the production here sounds new and I'm not too familiar with recent singles, so take this with a grain of salt. The addition of these new members makes this tape feel more cypher-like than the last 2 tapes and fully leans into that DJ mix vibe. If you're wondering what impressions are on this project, you can expect someone's best Chris Brown impression and Travis Scott impression. Thankfully, most of the projects, and all the projects for that matter, mainly have their own artist sounds on display. If you ever want a group that covers most of the sounds of hip-hop, then this is for you. Kinda like Dreamville. As you may know, I definitely have not even scratched the surface of what kind of hip-hop artists we have here in the islands. I haven't even touched the notable DJing or beatboxing scene here. While I feel that most of us here all have the potential to go big, speaking from an artist's perspective, I feel like we're not there at all. Everything I said in this video comes from a place of love and respect, whether I say something positive or negative. I want to see everyone in this video and the hip-hop community as a whole in the islands succeed. When I make a second video on this topic, I would like some suggestions. That being said, I want to talk about people with some sauce. I don't want anyone just gassing up their friend's mixtape unless if there's actual heat involved. I know it sounds kind of harsh, but hey, I feel like if we want to blow up, we gotta bring our motherfucking A game, right? If you like this video, then leave one with the thumbs provided, subscribe if you want, and don't be greedy, share this around. I'm out.